We need some theme music.
Good evening, afternoon.
Where's our vertical podcast theme music?
We could put some on if
I think that would be really cool.
really want to.
But I want you to write the tunes.
Oh no, I'm still living off my Camp Grace licensing money.
Camp Grace. Camp Grace. I love that song, by the way. It's
Times
very catchy.
two.
What's an adventure that lasts a lifetime?
Adventure that lasts a lifetime.
Can we listen to times two?
Huh?
No, we cannot. That's dude.
It's too late.
We can't be. Pastor DJ's asking that we use Tupac in our worship services, so just let you know, he's a heathen.
He is a heathen. And we do not condone such activity.
Yes.
Ambitions of a writer.
Hey Santana.
Ambitions of a rider.
Is that
I'm gonna tell you right now about Santana. She was spitting some fire last night in V group.
Was she?
Yeah, man.
I believe it. I'm not
She had
surprised.
some good stuff. And then she always prefaces about, I don't want to talk too much. I'm like, hey, let it roll, sister, because you got it going on. I love Santana.
I talked too much in RB group on Tuesday, and yeah, I did. I felt bad about it, but I got on a tangent on some stuff, and I'm just like, you know what? Let's
roll.
Let's roll. Hey everybody, welcome to the Vertical Church Podcast. We're jumping in today. Carla Beth I almost called you Walker.
Did you almost call her Walton?
Walter. Hey KB. K to the second letter.
K to the second letter. Hey.
But so we're coming in for a podcast today. We're going to be talking about passion, calling, and ministry. And so got a couple prompt questions. I asked our Facebook community, but I only gave them a little notice. I don't know how much response they gave yet. I'm going to look. But asked them what ministry they felt most passionate about. So that's a question just floating out to y'all that are watching. If you catch up on this, what is the calling or ministry you have ever felt most passionate about? But just to ask you this, y'all here this morning. Hey Tim, Hunt. What was the point in your life you felt like you knew you were called to ministry? Like in general, not just vertical, but like in ministry in general. I'm going to fix something, DJ, hold this. But what's the point in your life, y'all, this is for you, that you felt like you were called to ministry?
So far, before we get started, Will Carter says tech, Mitchell Kane says leadership, and Timothy Hunt says praying for people.
Ooh.
See, we need more prayers.
We do need more prayers.
Yes. Mm-hmm. People on the wall praying.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, good, we're powered.
So the question for us is...
Question for y'all. At what point, what was the first time you ever felt like you were called to a ministry?
Called to ministry or called to a ministry?
Either one.
Yeah. Well, for me, it started when I actually started getting more involved in the inner workings of what the church was doing. You know, going out on outreach, serving in different places in the church, whether it was teaching a Sunday school class, serving as a deacon, just being involved in more of the inner workings of the church just gave me a heart for the church and the ministry of the church. And so that's when that really began. And of course, you know, I ran from that from about 2 years. I ran from it, but so yeah, just getting more, you know, getting to understand the heart of the pastor. Pastor Dennis was my pastor at the time, Dennis Harrell, and just seeing his heart for evangelism and heart for people and heart for the church. That just kind of, and it was his passion for those things that actually started to whet my passion for that. So.
I'm trying to, in my mind, kind of break it down to called to a ministry because I was born in a hurricane. You could say my church because like the Sunday I got saved, the church split. I've told this story multiple times. That
Wow.
So the next Sunday I came back, it was like
Are you sure
where'd
it wasn't
everybody
because
go?
you got saved? At the
Yeah,
church
and that's why I blame it on me. But it was like, okay, what do I do, God? You've called me. I've accepted your salvation. And so over the next year, we went through a rebuilding project. We went through a pastor search. So I got to see all of this stuff that you don't normally get to see.
Right.
Especially as a new
in
convert.
a short period of time.
In a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So it was like my growth curve was like that.
Yeah.
As far as I needed to be a mature believer almost right away.
Yeah.
but you can't do that, of course. It
Right.
takes some time.
Right.
But understanding I had to dive in because there was needs. I
Yeah.
mean, it was devastating for the church to split, and we were left like 30 people maybe. And like I said, went through all of this rebuilding and restructuring, and I just felt led to start helping out in the youth and start. But I wasn't at a point that I could lead them, so I was assisting. So I made sure I was in Sunday school and Bible study for a time, and then I felt led, okay, you need to start serving. And then that serving was assisting in the Sunday school class for the youth. I did that for years, and the sound, that was an immediate thing, because I was a little bit ticky, and the person who did the sound was gone. And we redid it during that rebuilding process, and I was basically said, oh, you're interested in this? You go lead the sound guy into what we need. Put in this equipment and learn how to use it. And so that was a sharp learning curve for me to be able to do that. And I did that for 15, 16 years. And that was what I felt called to, because I was interested in it. I was passionate about it, trying to make sure all the little things that happened, that it wasn't about making sound great, it was about making the message heard. I really felt passionate about that in running sound for my church. It was about people hearing that message. We tried to develop a tape ministry for shut-ins, and then I changed that from tapes to CDs. We had the CD multiplier because we went away to on a mission trip, and one of the churches I went to while we were on a mission trip, you could literally get the message as you left.
We did that at Berea too, and John Sweeney and me. That was the thing. Like at the end of by the time it was he'd record 9 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock you could pick up the message.
Well, this was actually only one service, and what they did is they structured their service in a way where the message, there was other things after the message other than just a song.
Right.
They actually, where we have our vision moment before, theirs was almost at the end, where they talked about the mission of the church, and that gave the production team time. So you literally one service, as you leave, you can pick up a CD, and I was like, wow, that's exciting, that you can get that, because there's lots of people. Hey, I'd love to get that message, and then it was like, okay, if they're not here next Sunday, how do I get it to them?
Right.
But that was a passion for me to really dive into that. But I knew God was leading me somewhere else, because I was constantly going to all the classes that were offered at the Baptist building and doing all this kind of stuff, and I knew He was leading me to more of a leadership role. And I'm hoping and praying that as I learn more about this, where He's called me to here at Vertical, that I'm demonstrating that same passion for Him and for people to get the message, because it's still all about people getting the message. Whether I give them a tape, I want it. I'm controlling how it sounds versus leading people to lead people. So that's my story a little bit.
All goes back to the passion for the gospel.
Passion
right?
for the gospel,
Yeah.
and whatever
Yeah.
you're called into,
Has to be
it is a
about-
ministry.
It has to be.
It's
about
a
that.
ministry.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
has to be about
whether you're, like you said, standing behind a soundboard or running a camera or turning on the lights. I mean, it's a ministry that people hear the message.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'd say for me, like, the moment I actually accepted Christ in my life, I had a sense of that calling of, like, I just want to go around and tell people about Jesus. And, like, that really is what we're called to do, is go
Yeah.
tell people
Amen.
about Jesus. And, like, then going into college after that, I think going through stuff with Campus Crusade, called Crew right now, doing mission trips and stuff like that really gave me a heart to be involved in missions and ministry type stuff. And that, long story short, I say over those 4 years, it really put more, I guess, feet to that I want to tell people about Jesus thing. So just a quick snippet of me.
Yeah, that's good.
I think for me, just growing up in the church I grew up in, and my family being who they were, serving was not serving wasn't an option. So I was always there, whether it was me serving or with them serving. And then just growing up, and then when Hector came, just watching him and his passion for what he done, even though I wasn't always a part of it, you know.
But you did see his passion.
Oh, yeah.
His
Oh,
passion
yeah.
was definitely
Yeah,
obvious.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then by the time, I was getting close to graduating high school, everything I wanted to do, it felt like the Lord was just like sucking the joy out of it. Because I wanted to go to dentistry school. And yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard
That is
that.
the first time I've heard
I've
that.
heard you tell your testimony 1,000 times, and I've
Because
never
I don't
heard
tell
you-
that part because it was like, I don't think it's important. But anyway, that's what I wanted to do, along with.
I just learned something new about you today.
Okay, cool.
Danielle says serving was in your DNA.
It was, but obviously I had the scholarships to go play ball, and the Lord just started closing
Obviously.
the, because you've heard my testimony 1,000 times, right?
Dang,
Um,
bro.
And so,
Shade is up in here.
and so I think the Lord just started closing those doors a little bit at a time, and then just, I don't know if you remember that conversation I had with you about going to seminary, because I didn't know what else to do. I was like, I feel like this is what God's called me to do, so I'm gonna go explore that, and then
That's what you do when you go to ministry.
yeah, straight to seminary.
Seminary.
Which is a whole different world for me. But I think it all started when I remember probably when I was about 5 or 6, is when I just remember being at the church like late at night and helping pass out bulletins in different rooms and journals and what's those other books we used to pass out?
Hymnals?
No, in the Sunday school rooms.
Oh, quarterlies.
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 Stuff like that. When I was
Courtly.
Quarterly. What do we call it?
They are quarterlies. Where we were, they were called quarterlies.
But
Because we leave out syllables.
Yeah, I remember doing that at a young age, and then the Lord just started just adding passion to that. Is if that's the key word we're using. So that's where I'm at now. So
So you had some courtly passion?
I did.
Boldly come before the courtlies?
It was also
Passion
mandatory.
that came forward.
Huh?
It was also mandatory.
Mandatory.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. Like when I look at, so one of our processes is on Saturday evenings. We sanitize all the chairs, tables, and stuff in the building. And my kids know Saturday night you're working, and
Yeah.
like so we come in here on Saturday night make sure the chairs and stuff. And so like my kids are like not begrudged about it, but they're like, we're doing this so other people can just roll in here tomorrow and
Yeah.
worship, and they kind of see that. For me, I think the first time for real was I had a guy that was discipling me, even though I didn't know he was discipling me. Thought I was just hanging out. But he was my youth pastor at the time, who was also a CBM missionary. And before Camp Grace, they used to bus kids to the CBM camp in Raleigh. And so, like, he was going to drive he was going to pick up a bus of Robinson County kids from Camp New Life and bring them home. And he asked me to ride with him.
Wow.
And
That was your first introduction?
that was my first introduction.
Wow.
I think I had maybe gone to release time, but that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And he was having a rough day. And so that entire 2-hour drive and that 55-mile-an-hour bus all the way up to Raleigh,
That's a long drive.
that entire time he was complaining about all the things that were wrong in the ministry he was in. And I'm just sitting there listening to like this and this and this. And listen, if you've been in ministry, you've complained about ministry. So
Yes.
this is
Yeah, absolutely.
no
Yeah.
no shade. I'm not looking like how you were so like, listen, bro, I felt you.
Yeah.
But as he was doing this and he was talking about it, like, I literally felt this, not physically felt, but like I felt the presence of God just like literally like put his hand on my shoulder and say, "This is what I want you to do." And I think not just like at that point in time I interpreted it as I need to do camp ministry.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I was hearing, but I think the reality is, looking back to that moment, that conversation, it was, I need you to do the stuff in ministry that embitters other people. Like, because everybody can't be patient. Everybody can't be empathetic. Everybody can't do the grunt work. Everybody can't do that. And when I look back at my ministry life from that point on, that's always been that. Like, even if you give me a different role, I end up in that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not I'm not mad, but like, I feel like on a long-term scale, I feel like support ministry is one of my best areas. It's like, because if I can do the work and help people feel loved and hear the word of God, I'm down. I don't care if I got to clean toilets. I don't care if I got to do that. Hey, Phil pops on. Phil, I don't care, like, what that role looks like, but that led me to thinking, okay, camp ministry. I spent my time in camp ministry, and then I started working with college kids because I was involved with camp ministry, and I started getting in that. And Pastor Chris invited me to work with college students, and that led to church. Like that kind of progressed on, but I think that was the reality of it, is that God was showing me that it's hard, and He showed me that out the gate. But that I needed to be willing to do that, because like I saw how hard it was, in that time. And even then it was like I was a ministry that was a good ministry, but it was in a bad place.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen that a lot. But it all progressed through there. So to ask you this, just to go over a couple other things that some folks said too. Let's see. Will Carter said he was called to tech. Mitchell said leadership. You said those. Tim Hunt said praying for people. Danielle says relationships. Santana says that she felt called to leading tiny disciples. Mitchell said when the vertical is launched. Danielle felt called to international relationships when she was younger as well, and she put some time into there, but also just helping families be built and structured and being kind of a support there. Santana said I threw shade. And Daniel said that he's felt that a call to lead men's discipleship stuff. And so, Phil, just to answer your question, the first thing we did was talk about the moment we all felt individually called to ministry with that. So that was our thing. So, Phil, if you want to answer that, well, I'll pipe you in too. But to ask you this, let's say vertical's done. Let's not say that it crashes and burns or anything, but let's say vertical's done.
Okay.
What are you passionate about enough that you would feel that would be your next ministry focal point? Let's say God looks at Vertical Church and says, "Well done, good and faithful servants. We're good there," and we get a pat on the back. So, all right, next field. What are you passionate about enough right now? And sometimes, because even when we're in full-time ministry, sometimes we have side ministries, and we'll talk about that too. But like, if you were not pastoring right now in any capacity in this church, what would your not just your job occupation, but like what would your next ministry focal point be that you would be passionate about?
Wow, that's a good question.
That's a deep question.
I mean, and if you've some of us have side ministries in different areas, like Mike's got music and does a lot of different stuff with that, and DJ tries to involve himself in community in places that aren't always reached. You're coaching baseball right now, literally for the ministry aspect of it.
Right.
So we all have different areas that we're kind of focused on. Pastor Tim tried to do a backyard BBS, I mean, and that's the thing. Faithful efforts don't always have to be big explosions. But what are areas that you feel called to? Because all these areas that the folks shared as well. Phil said that he about breaking the stigma of addiction. That's one that he feels called to.
Yeah.
But what are you passionate about right now that you do? And before we do that, I'm just going to throw this out there for everybody else listening too. There's a really good book if you're looking for what your next step is, called "Cure for the Common Life" by Max Lucado. And in that, he's it's one of those, here's a formula diagram type situations, but it's 3 circles intersecting, and it says, all right, what are you most passionate about? That's circle 1. Second circle is, what are you best at? Like, what are you good at doing?
Right.
And then the third circle is, when is the last time you truly felt you were doing what God wanted you to do?
Wow.
And if you put those three things together,
It kind of gives you
where that intersects is usually like a good spot for you to start looking into.
Well, for me, if vertical went away today, I would probably go and coach. Coach young men. I mean, I've just seen just the deterioration in the development of young men. I have a passion for that, and I've seen that with just being able to coach with middle school boys, and I've enjoyed it. And it's something that I would definitely be passionate about. So yeah, I think that's what I would do. Especially having pastored for as long as I have. Let's go put our foot into something like that.
Well, when I was in my internship, it was kind of at the end. Okay, what do you feel that you're drawn to? And I didn't have any idea I was going to end up being a pastor, executive pastor at Vertical Church. I didn't know what my next step was, but I knew there was one, and I was seeking it. And even though I haven't been involved in it, I've always loved drag racing. I've always loved like off-roading stuff. I got my side.
A racing chaplain?
You know, exactly that kind of thing.
Wow.
Go to the off-road park.
Yeah.
Have a little chapel set up. Hey, reach out to people, spread the gospel in that environment. Mm-hmm. There's lots of things spread in that environment, and there's not a lot of Jesus there. No. I mean, to have big concerts and it's a big wild party, just to be involved, to say, hey, here's an alternative to what's going on over there.
Yeah.
My first drag
race was very scary. I was probably like third or fourth grade, and our parents went to Rockingham to the drag race, and Saturday night was crazy. Let's just say. So that would be. I'd say that's not a bad idea.
So when I you reminded me earlier when we were praying about, I said this when I came here, that whatever God laid upon me, the 10-year thing popped in my brain from Him, saying, okay, I need you to do this. I don't know what's next, but I need you to do this for 10 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was just like, that's the scary part, because you know how long it's already been.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? 3 years in, so wow, that's a third of the way there.
Yeah.
And so
you see what 11 years does to you.
Turns your beard gray.
Yeah.
It does that. For sure.
But like I said, am I passionate about drag racing? I don't drag race. I don't really go because,
but the people,
to be honest,
you're passionate about the people.
To be honest with you, it was always something I loved to do, but we never had time because we were going to church. Honestly, we were always involved in church, and we didn't go to that. And for one thing, there was always this stigma: oh, you go to the drag race or the races, or it's all a bunch of drinking and doing all this kind of stuff. And I was kind of religious, shunned from these people. I don't need to be around these people.
Can't associate with those people.
Yeah, and God has grown me to say, that's where
that's
you
who
need
we're called
to be.
Reach. Yeah, that's who we're called to reach.
That's where you need to be.
I think that's where Jesus was.
Yeah. That's where He would be. He'd be hanging out with those people, not judging them,
tax
not
collectors and the
condemning
sinners, I
them.
believe that's what it says in the Gospels.
Something like that.
Standing to the side, holding the cross, going, "You're all going to hell."
No, not that.
Standing
not
to
that
the
guy.
side, saying,
That one clip's going
Let's
to end
go.
up what's on Instagram.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's I would probably continue to do the bar scene just because of the interactions I have had there over the last 2 years. Just being able to minister to people, whether it's praying with them or if they come to me about whatever issue they have. One of the things I've heard a couple of times, and it's becoming more constant, which breaks my heart, is some people see me as their pastor and they don't barely know anything about me. They're like, oh, if I had a pastor, it's him. And it's like, you know, but at the same time, it's like, well, thank God I'm here. You know, you've allowed me to be
That's
here.
kind of awesome that they look
Yeah.
at you that way.
And so I would love to continue to do that. The second thing to kind of go along with that, and we've talked about this a lot, is just with the hunting club and that between the hunting club and the motorcycle world, you know, those three places, I grew up in that. I love that, what they do. But a lot of that happens at nighttime on Saturday night, you know, so a lot of what I could do, I don't do because of, hey, you got to go to bed on Saturday night.
Yeah, just because of limitations of
You're
your time.
limited.
Yeah.
You know, like on Saturdays for hunting, you know, obviously you get to have conversations, but when night hits, you know, they build a bonfire, they hang out, you know, more than likely they're going to be drinking or whatever the case may be. But that's when you actually were able to fellowship with them.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with motorcycle. I mean, when they have motorcycle rides and things in that nature. So for me, it would probably just to take another step to doing what, you know, I'm trying to do now. So
Yeah. That's good. What about you, Panino?
Part of me I'd continue doing the music stuff, but I think I'd be really tempted to try to either continue doing college ministry stuff or try to plant a new church. Like
He's like, if y'all quit, I'm just gonna keep doing it.
like Michael Scott.
Church.
It'll be the Michael Scott Paper
That's
Company
because you're
Church.
still young.
yeah.
I guess so.
You have some time. Like
He's older than DJ.
I've done that. I just don't have the energy to plant a church.
Yeah, I'm older than DJ.
He's older than DJ.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he's
I
on.
guess you are the baby, aren't you?
I am the baby.
He gets called that a lot. That's good.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'd be at with trying to either start a new church or wherever God would lead me, because I'm also in a place of, like, with the college ministry stuff, feeling like God's got something next, but I don't know yet.
Mm.
So whatever that next thing is probably would happen if Vertical just pieced
Yeah.
out.
Right.
And I'm kind of already doing my side ministry with Faith and Fandom of kind of like what Tim was saying about going to the track races, except I'm going where all the nerds are. And I've been doing that 9 years.
Wow.
Like, this is 9 years. That's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
And with that, you know, God's continued to open doors. It's also super exhausting. So, like, I don't know how long I would keep doing that either. Just it's financially.
Well, there are certain passions and things we do that does require a certain level of energy that you have to bring to it, and you know, that's an important part of it, right?
And that's one of the things I can easily point out to, that in like 2019, which was a hard year for a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But for 2019, I was putting too much of me into Faith and Fandom.
Right.
And my ministry here was being affected. It was affecting everything. But I was putting too much of me kind of everywhere else. And that's just one of the things too, is like learning to balance. Because like Elizabeth pointed it out, like, I don't know that I ever noticed it, but she says I've got FOMO, like fear of missing out. And that, like, I'll say yes to everything because I don't know what opportunities I'm missing. Not that it's about me, but it's just like, good could happen. I should show up.
I should be there.
And so, like, every time there's an opportunity that I, like, if there's an option between doing something or having a day off, like,
You would do something.
I will do something just
you're-
because of that.
You're
And
definitely that guy.
and so, like, right now, like, Fayetteville Comic-Con is in a couple weeks, and I'm not doing it because of the Wizard of Oz, but it's killing me.
Yeah.
Like,
I bet.
it's killing me because, like, I blocked off April and May, which there's 6 or 7 cons just in those 2 months.
Wow.
And I'm just like twitching over here. But because I feel it, like, I should be there. But at the same time, like, because, you know, I just did one 2 weeks ago, and, you know, we had a church service, we did all that stuff at the con. And, you know, anytime, like, one of my favorite things is, you know, that my kids have gone with me to those, so that they see, when they see the impact, like, they know, okay, you're not out just here goofing off.
Right.
Because it's a sacrifice of time with my kids and everything as well. So, like, taking them
They
with
see it and know that you're doing ministry.
yeah, when they see it and they know, like, okay, you're doing good stuff, like, that makes me feel a little, like, less like a horrible human. So one thing just to encourage y'all that are watching or listening, wherever you're at with this, is all the stuff that you're passionate about you can turn into ministry opportunities. One of the cool things, we've seen a lot of stuff over the years of like people from doing like thrift shops as outreaches. Well, we've seen people providing housing for the homeless as outreaches. We've seen like CrossFit small groups. We've seen a bunch of different stuff in the different areas. Like even after What's Next Connect on Sunday, Echo Quigg, who's one of our newer folks, Echo Quigg said that, oh, by the way, Santana said she's going to use her cooking as a ministry. Girl, your food alone
is a ministry.
Is a ministry.
Yes.
Have you eaten your food? Your food is delicious. Chef's kiss. It's the Lord. But Echo Quigg said that that their family has some land that they could use, and they're going to start building a community garden space so that people in the community in the area can come and actually like minister and fellowship together, provide needs for people as well. So that's just like, that's but that, cool. She's literally saying this: we have this, we're going to use this for this. And I really do think that one of the biggest things that people miss out on is they feel like the stuff they're passionate about has to be separate from ministry.
No,
but in the reality is the stuff that you're passionate about should be your ministry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we need to make ministry a vital part of our life. In fact, we were talking last night in our group about how sometimes life happens and we get distracted by life things. And I think it was Angela that had mentioned 1 Corinthians 10:31, which is her life verse. Everything you do, whether you eat or drink, do it to the glory of God. And I made this statement. I said, what we've got to do is we got to figure out how to make all of our life worship. Not just Sunday, not just when we go to church, but make all of our life worship. Make our passions, the things that God has gifted us with, that we're good at, make those things worship. And how can we use that as ministry opportunities? And man, if we will start I think we complicate our relationship with Jesus a lot, and we put it in a box. And it's like, no, make it a part of your everyday life. Make evangelism a part of your everyday life. Make discipleship a part of your everyday life. Make worship an everyday part of your life and everything that you do. And if we will do that, then we won't be feeling like we're shortchanging something, but it'll just ebb and flow into who we are and how God has made us, right? Because these passions that God has given us, these gifts and abilities that we have, they're God-given, right? I mean, and we all have various things, whether it's cooking or working with your hands or sports or whatever, and leveraging that for the gospel, right?
I think it was Martin Luther. I forget who said it, but like the difference between secular and sacred is the heart of the person. And so, like,
that's a good word right there.
Like
you need to say that again.
The difference between sacred and secular is the heart of the person who's doing it.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's kind of just piggybacking off what you said, just making worship, evangelism, discipleship just part of what we do.
Yeah, it's like an ebb and flow out of your life, right? Don't make it a compartmental part or a compartment, which is what I think we have a tendency to do, especially in the church.
I did it for years because I wasn't really led to understand it, because it was like church life.
Yeah, right. Church life here,
life.
Then life. Yeah.
And it's not intermingled to say what you are passionate about in life, just like that.
That's right.
Is go do that.
Yeah.
But make it a ministry.
Yeah.
Make sure that the passion for Jesus
do it to the glory of God.
Shows through what you're passionate about in the world.
God should be glorified in it.
Yeah.
Right.
My friend Chris Poirier, who's was at what church was that Frank was at? The Point.
Yeah.
He was up at the Point, Raleigh or Cary or one of those, and he he's a nerd, video games, all the deal. We do comics, podcasts, and stuff together. He went to Columbus, Georgia, which is kind of like the Silicon Valley of the South, like in terms of like high tech gaming, stuff like that. Yeah. He went down there and started a ministry called Columbus Got Game, where he literally got like a storefront area and filled it with like high tech gaming stuff, as well as like Dungeons and Dragons space and stuff like that, and just has community outreach stuff.
Really?
Like the whole time.
That is
like
an incredible idea.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And
wow.
he's done phenomenal stuff. It looks amazing. They've got groups in there. He baptized his first dude from that.
Really?
Like,
That's so cool.
That is awesome.
yeah, but I was just thinking it was
Wow.
something he was passionate about. He had this idea for it, and
Yeah.
he and his wife like literally packed up from North Carolina, went down there, and did it. And now they're partnering with a local college and school. I'm gonna mess up all the details on it, but basically it's because they have all these esports teams, people that compete in
Yeah,
like League
that's
of
a big
Legends.
thing now,
It's
yeah.
a big, but they're gonna, because he's got the good equipment.
They're
the
coming there to train and
They're sending the kids there for training,
wow.
and they're going to use that for training for the professional teams.
That is incredibly awesome.
And Michaela says everything we can do can reflect the good news and the character of Christ,
Amen.
and that's the reality of it.
That's it.
So flipping all that, we talked about all the things we're passionate about and the way that passion affects our calling. What happens when ministry loses passion?
Wow.
It becomes a chore.
Becomes a chore,
Yeah.
Want to play in traffic?
becomes obligation.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, how many times have we been in positions where we're doing things because of the position or the obligation we're in, and we're just not passionate about it anymore?
Yeah, I think one of the things that sometimes we get trapped in ministry is the things that drain us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went into ministry because we had a passion for Jesus, but then we found out as we got into that ministry that there were some things that we had to do that drained us or we didn't like. And so if we're not constantly coming to the feet of Jesus and getting our cup filled,
Yeah.
those things that we have to do in ministry that we don't particularly like or don't particularly care or that take a lot out of us, and we're not replenishing, that's when I think we get to the place of burnout. Because when I'm doing the thing that I'm passionate about, it actually feeds me.
Yeah.
You know, even though I may exert energy, it still feeds my soul.
Yep.
But it's the things out, the other things that don't do that are a part of every job or ministry that you have. I mean, there's going to be things that you have to do that drain. And so for me, just figuring that out and going, you know, I've got to spend time at the feet of Jesus. I can't just, you know, continue to operate in that area that I'm passionate about because there are other things that drain. And then life happens too. I mean, life pulls at you.
Yeah.
So
And if you don't spend time at the feet of Jesus, and if you don't get replenished, because like there are days where I would go do faith and fandom stuff, and it would replenish me to come back and do church stuff.
Right.
Then there would be days that church stuff would replenish me to be able to go do faith and fandom stuff, or time with family, stuff like that. But if you're not going to Jesus and checking your attitude with it and getting filled there,
that's right.
you're going to find that the stuff that you used to be passionate about, it starts to become bitter.
Yeah. And it becomes more like a job or an obligation, like you said. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I remember like this past Sunday, Tim was with us at Bladen, and that prior week, that Wednesday, I was just spending some time with God, and he kind of just was showing me the time of what we done as a staff, like on a Sunday, on the average Sunday for the month. And I mean, and this is not to brag or anything. I mean, we spend almost 30 hours a month just on Sundays in our buildings doing ministry.
I spent 14 hours just past Sunday.
Yeah. So, I mean, you think about that, and God was just showing me, it was like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I've called you to serve. You're doing it, authentically. You're doing it with passion. But how much are you spending at my feet? And
As compared to.
to dishing out,
Input versus output.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's not
How
about.
much do you time you spend being Martha versus being Mary?
And sometimes it's not really about.
We should do a series on that.
I think for me, it's not. Sometimes your passion is not pulled away because of things you don't want to do. Sometimes it's doing the things you're called to do, and you're just not being replenished, like you said.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's been many Sundays I leave Elizabethtown. By the time I get home, it's like 3 hours later. I got to go to Winco, and it's like I really don't want to go. But when I go, God uses it some way, somehow. Sometimes He doesn't, that I see, and it's kind of like, but am I sitting at His feet tomorrow morning? You know what I mean?
The thing about being passionate and losing passion, there's a saying, what is it? Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You can't do that with passion
No.
because people see through that. I mean, I don't care how good a hype man you might think you are.
Yeah.
It will show that you're really not passionate about
Well,
it.
especially over the long haul.
Sure.
You might
You
be
can
able to
do it
fake it
little
for a
bit,
day
for a little bit,
or
yeah.
for this moment, but to continue to sustain that,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
When you lose that passion
Yeah.
in anything, in ministry, in your job, it will show. It will be reflected in the not less. It's hard to measure success in ministry.
By
Tell
God's
me, I know
standards.
I try to measure success in ministry with numbers. I mean, it's something we use, but we always say if one person got it, then it was success. But to show that 10 people passion and they don't get it can be disheartening.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm truly passionate and nobody catches it, you know, we're starting this the thing right now about rebuilding vertical culture, and I went back through some of my notes from the internship, and it was like culture is caught, not taught. Well, that's great, but you have to do a certain amount of teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've got things written down. We're starting this in our vision moment to say, okay, we need to revisit this and teach people these words and what they mean, but we do that passionately, and our people catch that culture,
Mm-hmm.
and that demonstrates the passion. Now, can you do it? Like you said, you can stand on a stage and give a message and not be passionate about it. The same words went out. Can the Holy Spirit God use it? Sure.
No.
He can use it. But like you said, Donnie said, you can't sustain that.
No.
You can't sustain that,
Yeah.
you know, that fake smile and that boldness you want to show people. Like you
Well, part
said,
of
it
the-
may be a Sunday.
Well, part of the power of that passion in that ministry is the sustaining value of it. I mean, like I think back to a guy that was he taught the youth at my church that I grew up in, that I actually got saved in. And that guy's faithfulness, the enduring faithfulness of what he brought, with the passion that he brought to ministering to us as youth, that stood out to me more than any one lesson that he ever taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true of our leaders, of our volunteers. I mean, when you can bring that sustaining passion over the long haul, that's something special. Because we've all mailed it in on Sundays. We've all, just pioneered through or faked it, weren't feeling it. But to do that week in, week out, day in, day out, that's when people start to see through it and go, you're not really passionate. You don't really believe in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Sunday was one of those rough days for me. We trying to move into our home and stuff, so the weekend was very long, and so Sunday,
You just want to take a nap.
I wanted to take a nap. But
You want
after
to sleep in.
after church, though, I was really reassured of just some love for our team. One of the ladies, I think it was Megan, came up to me and she was like, "Hey, are you okay?" Because she could tell something, and then she was like, remember, you can lean on us. And it was at that moment the Lord was like, "Son,
That's encouraging. Yeah.
you know what I mean?" It was very encouraging. It was also convicting because it was like,
Yeah. Right.
here you go. I try to do like a self-check before I get out of the vehicle on Sunday, and apparently I didn't do.
You weren't feeling it that
I
morning.
weren't feeling it.
It happens. It
And
happens.
so, but
You're human. We're human too.
But
Pastors
that's-
are human.
But that's the thing, though. Like
Yeah.
within 3 or 4 hours, people could see that, hey,
Well, that's just a testimony of God's grace and mercy.
Yeah,
The fact that He gave you a
absolutely.
little glimpse.
absolutely,
Like, hey, don't get discouraged or don't get beat down. But hey, here's a
yeah,
little something to lift you up. I mean, it's like God knew what you needed in that moment.
oh yeah,
I'm so thankful He does.
yeah,
Yeah.
Let's, when we do a staff meeting, and also I think when we do huddles across the board as well, we try to talk about wins. We try to talk about, and by the way, y'all, my laptop just died, so I can't see your comments, but hi. But when we do our huddles and stuff like that, we talk about wins.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why we do that is because we want people to become passionate about it. But like, it's a hard thing to actually ever want something from someone when you can tell they're not passionate. Think about this, like, when's the last time y'all walked through a mall? And if this is you, I love you. Don't take this as shade. You see these people at kiosks at the mall?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the ones in the middle.
The ones in the
Yeah.
middle? And you 100% know they give zero poops about the product they're selling. They don't believe in it. They're not down for it.
Yeah.
They don't think it's cool. They're there because they need a paycheck. And you could tell by every expression of their body, of their face. Can I clean your glasses? Do you want a gold chain?
Yeah.
Do you want to pop it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell those people. Most of those people don't even lift their head up from their phones.
Yeah.
They just sit there
Just
and
manning a station.
they're manning a station.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why churches deflate when it comes to service and volunteers and worship and everything else is you can see,
Who's real?
well, you can see who's real, but also you can see who's gone from being like doing something passionate to they're manning a station. And when you see people on a Sunday morning or in a small group or something else and they're just manning a station, you're like, I don't want what they have because they don't even want it.
It's not very attractive. That's for sure.
As Donnie can say, they're just a warm body.
Warm body and a placeholder.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so just because I don't want us to take everybody's time for too long, but to ask this, I'd like each of you to throw out for those who have lost their passion, for those who are burnt out, for those who are discouraged. Because we could say things like sit at the feet of Jesus, but let's give some practical, here's how you do that. What for those who have lost their passion, what are the best things that you can, like, even if it's just one thing each, what's one thing you can encourage them to do to regain their passion? And I'm gonna jump in and say, well, just so you don't take my good ones. One of the things that I think that you see through Scripture all the time, especially because we're reading through the Old Testament right now through the Bible reading, that I know, like as we just like with Egypt, just getting through and Israel and everything else. One of the things that you see then that you're going to see echoed all throughout Scripture is saying, "Remember when I did this." Like he's like when God's saying, "I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob," he's saying, "You need to remember what I've done there."
Yeah.
And so often we get, I think one of the biggest reasons we lose passion is because all we're looking at is the begrudging stuff right in front of us.
Yeah, the here and now.
The here and now, and the reality is the here and now can kind of suck if we're not able to see the full picture. But when we look back at it and say, "Oh, remember when this was hard? But look what God did."
Yeah.
I remember the day that Florence hit, and I first got that text of the picture, the aerial shot of this building. And I remember the pure gut-wrenching discouragement of that shot, of that text message. I was sitting in Burlington because we evacuated our house, and I was sitting up there and got that text message. And if you would have told me then that we were going to see all the fruit
Right.
that came in the next couple months, I wouldn't have been able to see it. But I can look back and say, yeah, this was horrible, but look at all the ways God moved through it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things we can do to help our passion is to remember why we were passionate about it before, and the ways we've seen God move in those passionate areas before. So I think, honestly, because God says, remember what I've shown you before. And I think that can be one of our biggest things, because it's also, I say it in premarital counseling or postmarital counseling too. It's like, if there's a couple that's struggling, why did you love them before?
Yeah.
Why did you love them in the first place? What do you love about them? Not where you're struggling at right now. What did you love about them?
What were you doing in those moments that produced that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of loving action?
Just what you're talking about is counseling, and I feel like being able to talk to some mentorship, discipleship can help you rejuvenate that passion, because someone outside of you asks those type of questions, those leading questions that you don't think about, that remembering what I did for you, we forget, but other people can help bring that by questioning you. by saying, "Hey, I saw your passion before. Where did it go? Why did it do?" Sometimes it's not just I had all these things happen. It can be that one straw they say that breaks the camel's back, that flips. And especially in ministry, it's like, I'm just done. That happened.
One hurt feeling.
Without someone sitting you down, someone you trust, that either you're discipled, they've discipled you, they've mentored you, and having conversations. This helps me right here, what we're doing, having conversations about our life. Okay? This helps me see where my passion. I hadn't even thought about the thing from my internship about the I called it off-road vertical. You know, it was just like I had a name for it. It was vertical off-road. No, it was vertical off-road kind of thing. Going to these events and like that. So that brought things back to my remembrance. I mean, the scripture even talk about bringing things back to your remembrance.
Yeah, God calls us.
Yeah, he calls it. You can't remember scripture you've never read.
Yeah. True that.
So that, to me, having
roasted.
conversations with trustworthy people who have a passion for being able to talk to people. I mean, if I talk to someone who's shy and they're not willing to, they're not going to show me their passion, it's not going to inflame my passion. So for someone to come to any of us who has lost their passion, we've got to show them our passion. We've got to be passionate about helping them. That flame lights off another flame.
Well, going off the theme of remembering, and this is why journaling, I think, is a very vital and important part of a follower of Jesus' life. And I know it takes effort and time, but I'm telling you, when you have lost your passion, one of the things that I like is to go back and look at some of the old journal entries, because it brings me back to where God was faithful in the past, in a personal way, not just in Scripture, but a personal way. And so looking back and just reading back over how God has brought you through things in the past, that is a key component of that, I think. And then for me, another thing is, as you're reading through the Scriptures, making note of promises that you come across and writing those down, putting those Scripture references in a book or something, and then using that as something to go back over when you've lost your passion and just remember God's promises. Because that's what God always calls His people back to. Remember what I've done for you in the past, and remember my promises. And those things are life-giving, and it breathes fresh breath into your life. And at least that's been the things that I've used to help me. Just that journaling and recording, what God's doing, and then going back and looking at those things, because those things can be refreshing and just reconnect you with God in a way that you can't. And our memories are very short. I mean, God can do something today, and then like 3 days later we'll forget.
Yeah.
We'll forget this moment, right? Because of the here and now.
3 days.
Well, it's the here and now.
Like a couple hours.
Right?
Yeah.
But the here and now, the pressing moment, because we're in the here and now, this is real and this is heavy, and we just lose all sense of awareness sometimes. And so that's what I would say.
Y'all took all the good ones.
That's why you shouldn't be
That's why I
last,
went
baby.
first.
Well, you shouldn't be last. You better jump in.
For me, this is my personal life.
Just threw you under the bus, man.
It's okay. The last will be first.
For me, I have to, when I feel, in that place, I have to check my complaining meter. Like,
Yeah.
am I complaining more than I'm loving the people around me, loving God? Because we all have a nature of complaining.
Yep.
Be thankful.
Especially,
Think about the things you're thankful for.
especially in those moments where you're praying and God, you feel like God's not moving or God's not answering, or you're just in a place of despair or discouragement. Complaining is natural, and so for me, I would say check your complaining meter and see how much you're actually loving. If you're loving, I think of this past week we preached on that, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And compared to how much you're complaining in the moment. Because if you for me, most of the time when I'm at that breaking point, it's when I got a lot of complaints, and so that's mine.
I'd say for me, being more specific than just saying be at the feet of Jesus, but actually talking to God about it. Like just being real and saying like, God, I just don't feel passion for this, or like I'm just not in the
Being
mood
real
for
with
this.
God.
Yeah.
Just being real with God, because there's been lots. It's freeing whether you're mad or bitter or upset or jealous or whatever it is, to be able to say, God, this is how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
and to be able to know He's a big boy and He can handle it.
Yeah.
And to be able to let the Lord handle it, because there's been plenty of times where I've been open with the Lord with that, and then like maybe an hour or the next day or something, like he does something to like pull me out of the funk. Be like, I was being stupid.
Yeah.
But thank you for allowing me the safe place to be honest with you, Lord.
It's good.
Just
Rain.
like that, the rain
And
hits.
the rain comes.
Well, folks, if you've added some more comments too, we'll go back and check those as well. If you're watching this on Facebook or you're catching the end of it, it'll be on our podcast on the Vertical app eventually.
Yes.
Eventually. Shout out to Mike Panino, who makes sure our videos go all the places they're supposed to go. But this will be on YouTube and our app. So if you want to go back and watch the whole thing, not on Facebook, you can do that as well. But we try to do this every other week, so we'll be back, before Easter.
Should be.
Should be, yeah.
Should be.
Should be.
And do another one. But continue to share with us your passions. And if I really just to throw this at you, if you've got something in your heart, in your life that you're passionate about, and you want some help just being enabled to make that a ministry,
Yeah.
we would love to be able to do that. We don't want to do your ministry for you.
We'll equip you.
We want to equip you. So if there's ways we can help you do that, we want to help you to be more passionate in the ministry you're in. Or if you also want to turn your passions into a ministry, we love to help with that. And we have some moderate experience in different areas doing that.
Good.
So peace out. I'm going
Peace
to
out.
awkwardly get up off this couch and then go push that button. So sorry. All right. Goodbye. Bye.
You really made it awkward.